Not only does provoking the child to anger offend one of these little ones, not only does failure to involve them in the work of God offends these little ones, but also failure to show a biblical example offends one of these little ones. Anna and Kiki, this is Brother Steve James. He's going to read us 1 Peter 5, 2 and 3. And this is also Danny, one of our camera peoples. This is his father. This is Steve James. We'll be reading 1 Peter 5, 2 and 3.
Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight of it, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of ready mind, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock.
Feed the flock of God. A lot of people, especially in the Baptist church movement, want to say that this is referring to pastors. And this is referring to just pastors. But this is also referring to a family. This is also a family situation. It does not just refer to pastors as feeding the flock of God, but it also refers to parents and guardians. Those who keep and watch over little children and younger teenagers. And this is why. Not as being lords over God's heritage. Notice that word heritage. God's heritage. What is God's heritage? It is not just a congregation of a church, but it's also a little child. It's also children. Kimberly will read Psalm 127 and verse 3. The one that's going to be reading this verse is Deshawn and Jessica's mother.
Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord.
Alright, lo, children are an heritage of the Lord. What does it say? Lo, who are heritage of the Lord? Children. Not as being lords over God's heritage. Not as being lords over children. Parents are to be but also being an example to the flock. The flock being the family. The flock means children. Be an example, a biblical example to children. Now let's refute some of these old sayings that parents love to say to their children all the time. Let's refute at least two of them. Here's a scenario. A child comes home beaten up by this bully, and this child comes home beaten up, 2 black eyes, a bloody nose, and a fat lip. He comes home looking like a beat up raccoon. And he tells the parent that he got beat up in school, and the parent takes out his or her switch and starts beating at the child for having lost the fight because he was just some wussy, like he was just some kind of a wimp. But guess what? That is not a biblical example. I can show you a verse in the Bible that says that the child was right. Doesn't the Bible say that? Doesn't even Jesus himself, God himself said in red letters to turn the other cheek. If one shall smite or hit you on one cheek, turn and give him the other. In fact, if you ask me, that gives the child more bragging rights. That, hey, and that child would go home bragging about how he beat this little child up. He'll brag for 5 minutes talking about, hey, guess what? I beat this little child up. Going on telling his other friends, hey, I beat this little child up. I beat this other kid up. They say, yeah, whatever. It's because I let you beat me up because Jesus said so. Had I disobeyed the word, I would probably be suspended from school for at least 2 weeks by now. And so if you are in a situation where you're beating your child for coming home from school beaten up because you think they're a wimp, that is wrong. However, if the child has a brother, Jesus did not say, Jesus said something about you smite, if somebody smites you on the cheek, give them the other. But he didn't say anything about sticking up for those that you love. Like, let's say that DJ and Elijah come home from school. Elijah's beaten up. He's defenseless. DJ saw it. He could have done something about it, but he didn't do it. Guess who gets the beating? DJ. Because he could have done something about it. He could have stopped it. He could have defended his honor. In fact, I think the Bible gives you a right to defend what you believe in, to defend the defenseless, to stick up for those who can't stick up for themselves. Let's take the gospel. Here's the Bible that's behind it. The gospel message. Weren't we as sinners, weren't we as human beings beat up and defenseless by the big bully known as Satan? And Jesus came down off his throne, came to earth to stick up for us. He was beaten, he was bruised, he was spat on, and they also nailed him to a cross, and he sacrificed himself just to stick up for us. And then he went on, and then he went to heaven, showed God the Father the scars, and God the Father saluted Jesus for sticking up for us. You have the right to stick up for those who can't defend themselves. Let's refute another old saying. Do as I do, not as I say do.
I got another one.
Do as I do. Don't do as I do. Do as I say do. This is another adage that we're about to break down, and we're about to refute this one. Don't do as I do. Do as I say do. That goes completely against the Bible verses that we just read. Not as being lords over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock, by being examples to the children. You're supposed to be an example. Why would you tell a child not to smoke a cigarette and then go and smoke one yourself? Why would you tell a child not to drink and you have a drinking problem? Why would you tell a child not to do drugs and you do it yourself? It doesn't make any sense. It is not biblical. It's not wise to do something like that. 3 things that offend little children: provoking them to anger, failure to involve them in the work of God, and also failure to show them a biblical example. That's why it is important to study the Word, so you will know how to bring children up. Yeah, this message is also for the little children, for when they grow up. You'll have to be an example to somebody too. So you have to learn how to show an example, involve others in the work of God, and not to provoke them to wrath, not to provoke them to anger. Amen?
Amen.
Brittany, you can turn the camera off.